Yet another potential managerial target has been identified by Tottenham Hotspur. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, the news today coming out from various sources across the media seems to suggest that Tottenham Hotspur have identified another name to potentially be in the frame to fill their current vacancy in terms of a new manager. The new name in question appears to be Celtic's Ange Postecoglou, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. But he seems to be now in the running and potentially be on Tottenham's radar for a pursuit of potentially looking at him becoming their new manager after Celtic's Scottish Cup final this weekend. We're going to be talking all about this story, about the Tottenham side of things, about him as a manager and everything else in between that's gone on with this Tottenham ordeal. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And I also encourage you as well to get involved in the comment section. I'm sure you'll have lots of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this potential news story. And of course, Tottenham as a whole down below in the comment section. I'm sure will make for great and interesting reading. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's roll on. Let's move on with this video. Yeah, the Tottenham Hotspur circus continues to roll on. Every day there is seemingly something new about Tottenham. Some of it's more interesting than others, admittedly, but there's always something new with Spurs because they are a club that has been mismanaged, mistreated, poorly run in general. And, you know, from the outside looking in, I'm not associated with Tottenham whatsoever, but from the outside looking in, it's a little bit funny. But it's also could be a little bit frustrating, and I do share the kind of frustration with the majority of those Tottenham fans who have had enough of being treated like a joke, whether it's from rival fans that laugh at them or whether it's just from their own club themselves that constantly embarrass them on a seemingly daily basis. This story though, it reeks of Nuno Espirito Santo of a couple of years ago. Because he was like their 13th, 14th, 15th choice. If I take you back to that summer that obviously Nuno was appointed, there was a lot of managers, including Antonio Conte himself, that were interviewed for that role. And there were a lot of managers that seemingly were close at various points to accepting that role. And then something broke down. Manager had a change of heart. Manager had a better offer elsewhere. Tottenham didn't think he was the right person. Didn't like his interview. Didn't like this. Didn't like that. Whatever it may be. Eventually, they landed on Nuno Espirito Santo. Their 13th choice. Or 14th. Or 15th. Or 16th. Maybe 17th. 18th? 19th? It doesn't matter. There was a lot of people that were interviewed for that role. Maybe even you're sat there right now watching this video, and maybe even you were interviewed for that role, because they pretty much went through everybody under the sun. This is reeking of the same thing, because there's been a few managers that have been in the frame, a few managers that have been called into question. Some of them have died down for obvious reasons. Some of them have just disappeared into the ether. Luis Enrique being one of them. World-class manager. I assume it's from his side as to why it didn't obviously happen, because I can't imagine. I know Daniel Levy's dumb. I know in terms of a footballing sense. I know Daniel Levy is not the greatest in terms of football IQ, but I can't imagine he would turn down a manager of his world-class ability and, of course, his world-class resume. Just saying. Julian Nagelsmann. Young manager, a lot of potential, big prospect, big project manager. Depending on who you listen to and who you follow in terms of these kinds of stories, he's in and out of the frame constantly. He's doing the hokey cokey here. He's in the frame 1 minute, he's in the race, he's out the race. He's in the race, he's out the race. Again, more on Tottenham's side, I'd feel, than what his side. And he could probably get a better offer elsewhere anyway, same with Luis Enrique. Mauricio Pochettino was touted for a return to Tottenham. That, of course, is now not happening because he's obviously going to be the next Chelsea manager when he takes over at the beginning of June. Other names. Vincent Kompany. He was mentioned. we're eventually going to be going down to this. And this is a manager who, from what I can tell from the from initial reaction, is underwhelming, and rightfully so. This is a guy that's put Celtic back on their throne, shall we say, of Scottish football, which is the bare minimum, and pretty much the major expectation that Scottish football has, with all things considered and with all due respect. Obviously, for the past couple of years, Rangers have made more of a meal of it in terms of even more of an intense two-horse race. But Celtic, of course, this season, been put back on their throne completely. They won the Scottish Premier League, and of course, like I say, they've got the Scottish Cup to follow this weekend. He has done that. He's done what was expected of him to do. There's not really much further he can go, unless, of course, he can perform some sort of miracle and maybe get them the Champions League, which is extremely unlikely because it's Celtic and it's the Champions League. So he might see himself as reaching his ceiling, and that might mean he may be actually more open and interested in taking the job at Tottenham, which of course is a bigger club, with all due respect, maybe not in terms of history, but maybe more in terms, or maybe in terms of history, but in terms of a bigger league as well. A bigger league, bigger platform, bigger stage to kind of express yourself and do all that kind of stuff. What is going to be interesting to see is if this actually does follow through or not. Because this is a very underwhelming appointment. Guy who his CV has been mainly spent in Australia. And then, of course, he came over to Scotland and has done what he was expected to do with Celtic. This is very underwhelming right now. But sometimes these unknown managers, and sometimes these managers that are just waiting for a club like Tottenham to come along for them, may actually shine through. That could potentially be the case here. We'll have to obviously wait and see on that. It could happen. I doubt it, but it could happen. We could have another Nuno Espirito Santo situation on our hands here, in which he's going to be very underwhelming. He's going to be poor. He's going to have tactics that just don't work with these players. He's not going to get along with the ball. He's not going to get the players that he wants. It's going to look poor on the pitch. It's going to look poor off the pitch. And again, Tottenham fans are back to square one. Or it could be like a Poch thing. Maybe it could work out. Maybe it could be like another project thing. Maybe he could shock a few people. Maybe he could actually do some wonders. Again, I doubt it, but it could happen. Many Tottenham fans, like I say, are underwhelmed by this, and rightfully so. This isn't the kind of big, gets you off your seat kind of name that, of course, in comparison to other names, like I say, that have been thrown around in terms of Pochettino, Enrique, Nagelsmann, they're the kind of names that get you off your seat and get you excited. This name isn't. And again, it just shows you the kind of poor mismanagement, poor treatment that Daniel Levy, Enoch, everybody else associated with the Tottenham kind of board and the people in power and the people above just do not know football, do not care about this football club enough for them to push the boat out, pull their finger out a bit more, and to go, right, we're going to do this properly this time. We messed up with Jose Mourinho. We messed up with Antonio Conte. We messed up with Pochettino when he really needed us most to back him. We messed up 3 times. We cannot make it a 4th. Well, more times if you obviously count. We cannot appoint another Nuno Espirito Santo. We cannot mess up with how poorly we treated Conte in this season. We've got to go again. We've got to go again. We've got to burn everything down and rebuild it back up, get it right. Because, let's face it, you're going to lose Harry Kane in the next 2 years. Spurs fans, I think, are starting to make peace with that. Kane is either going to go this season, this summer, and is already, again, snowballing speculation in regards to he'll only move to Manchester United. So whether that obviously speeds things up or not remains to be seen, because he's only got 1 year left on his contract. So he's either going to leave this season for big money, or he's going to leave next season for absolutely nothing. Daniel Levy has got to make a big decision on that. And once he goes, you worry for Tottenham. You genuinely do, because their recruitment is poor. The players that they've got at that club are poor, and they're from a mixture of different eras of the past several years under different managers. So it's all kind of broken and a bit patchworky and a bit weird and a bit all over the place. So that's just weird in general. And you worry because Spurs could fall. I don't think they're enough to be a relegation side. But a bottom half side, you wouldn't put it past them. You wouldn't put it past them. This managerial appointment, to me, isn't that great if it obviously does happen and if Tottenham do follow through on their pursuit. In my opinion, we're going the extremely long way round to a Brendan Rodgers or a Graham Potter. That's my opinion. This guy definitely could be, because he fits that kind of that low hanging fruit. That low hanging fruit of he's easily obtainable. Because he's managing in Scotland and he's managing Celtic, and Celtic are the best club, the top club in Scotland, and it's it's more difficult to fail there than it is to succeed with that club. But at the same time, I still think we are going the long way around to a Brendan Rodgers, to a Graham Potter. And in my opinion, Rodgers will be great for a couple of years. Potter will be good for a longer period of time than that. So I think either of those two could be really good. But this is Daniel Levy in charge. This is a man who strikes me as the kind of guy who would talk football to you in the pub, but he doesn't really know what he's talking about. If that makes sense. He'll try and be invested in you, try and strike up a conversation with you, but he doesn't really know anything about football. You could sense that in the All or Nothing Tottenham documentary, and of course in the decisions that he's made even before then and after then. Of course, it only escalates that point and only backs up that point more and more. So this Tottenham circus continues to roll on, and I, for one, am watching it with popcorn at the ready, and I'm just enjoying the crash and burn, shall we say, because it's kind of funny, it's a little bit sad at times, it's an absolute movie masterpiece of a roller coaster and a circus and a mixture of emotions all in one go, and you couldn't write it any better. But at the same time, I can understand, being associated with Tottenham Football Club, that you would be extremely frustrated watching this from afar. And I'm sure this news today of Postecoglou possibly being on Tottenham's radar to fill that vacancy of a managerial position might only escalate things even further in a negative aspect. But of course, as I always say, those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the potential news of Ange Postecoglou of Celtic potentially being on Tottenham's radar to fill their vacant managerial position? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on that particular story down below in the comment section. Could make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way. I've enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video.